domain and range from a graph. Okay, so we have the following problem. We want to find the domain of the G. So domain of G. So all these points here make up G there. Now remember domain. Domain you can think about drive. Just like you're going to drive a car. So if you're going to drive a car, you're going to go sideways. So in other words, you're going to use the x-axis. So if you're going to drive a car, you would go along the x-axis. So let's take a look at this. Now these are points. These are not a continuation of a line. So it looks like when we look at the x, we have a 0 because we have a point in that column there. We have a point at 2. So 0. We have a point in the 2 column. We have a point in the 4 column. We have a point in the 5 column. And we have a point in the 7 column. So we have a point in the 0 column. We have a point in the 2nd column. We have a point in the 4th column, in the 5th column, and the 7th column. So our numbers would be 0, 2, 4, 5, and 7. So 0, 2, 4, 5, and 7, and that would match up with D. Okay, now we want to find our range. Now with range, I want you to think of a rocket. And with a rocket, rockets go up. So this rocket will go up or down. So we're going to go up, and then sometimes they do come down, but rockets are up, going upward, and that would be like your y-axis. So rockets up and down. So rockets go up and they do come down. So we want the up and down kind of motion here. So think of range as a rocket. So when I look at my graph here, it's as low as -5, but it's high as 5. And this is continuous, so it's not like separate points. So we want to look for actually like an inequality to show that. So we want to start at -5 and we want to end at 5. Notice that we have solid points there. So we want to go less than or equal to. Since we're going up or down, it's going to be the y-axis. So again, my lowest level here is at -5. The high point is 5. We have solid dots there, so our inequality signs are going to be solid. So we want to look for -5 and then 5. And if we look at our choices there, we can definitely see that B would be our choice. Oh, also one other thing is notice they didn't use a Y. That's because what we talked about earlier was that f of x is equal to y. These are interchangeable. So f of x and y are interchangeable. So another way of calling something y, you could use f of x. Okay, now we're talking about our domain. And again, the domain, you want to think of drive. And you want to like drive a car. So this is the x-axis. So it starts here at -5 and they travel to 7. So we start at -5 and we travel to 7. So we're going to use our inequality signs, and notice these are solid points. But remember, we're driving across, so we're going in this direction here. So this would be x. So this would be an x right there. Since you drive, you go across, that's an x-axis. So we want to be negative 5, x, then 7. So negative 5, x, then 7, and they both have the inequality signs. And they both have actually the equal sign there. So you see that C should be my answer. So negative 5, inequality sign, then x. Okay, now we want to do the range. So if you want to think of the range, you want to think of the word rocket. And rockets go up, and rockets do come down. So it's an up or down kind of thing. Range is your y-axis. Also, what we saw earlier was they switched out the f of x and they used the y. So the range here will start at negative 4, and then we're going to work our way up to 5. But here's the thing, we don't have a solid, they're not solid lines, so we got to look at each individual point. So we got to look at the different levels here. So we have a point at negative 4 level, and again I'm only looking at the y-axis. So I'm only looking at the y-axis. We got one at negative 4. We actually have 2 points at negative 3. Now right here at 1 we have a point. So at level 1 there's another point. And then at level 5 there's another point. Now even though there are 2 points here, we consider them just negative 3. So one negative 3 is enough to represent those 2 points. So at level 1 we have a point at negative 4. Level 3 we have another point. Actually 2 points there. At level 1 we have a point, and level 5 we have a point. So we want to look at negative 4, negative 3, 1, and 5. And notice they're using f of x, and remember f of x is another way of saying y. So our best choice would be C. Okay, what is the domain? Now again, domain, you want to think of drive. And what I mean by drive, you want to drive the car. And the car, when you drive a car, it's going to go on the x-axis. It's going to go from right to left, or left to right. So, you know, we're going in a right left motion or direction. But again, you can go left to right, right to left. So if we look at this, we want to travel along the x-axis. So we have a point here at negative 7. We have a point here at negative 3. Now this is a negative 1. So we have a point at negative 1. We cross over to the positives. We have a point at positive 1. And we have a point at positive 4. So if we go down the x-axis, we look and see, we see a negative 7, there's a point. Negative 3, there's a point above it. Negative 1, there's a point below it. At positive 1, there's a point above it. And at positive 4, there's a point above it. So those should be my values for x. So we're looking for negative 7, negative 3, negative 1, 1, and 4. The reason why I wouldn't go with B or D, it's not continuous. The points are not connected. If you have something that's all connected, then yes, it would be the inequality signs. But these are separate points, so you got to put down the numbers that represent them. So the x values would be negative 7, negative 3, negative 1, 1, and 4. So A would be my best choice. Okay, next one is your range. So let's talk about range here. So range, okay, we're going to think of a rocket. And again, rockets go up and rockets go down. So this is the y-axis. So we're more concerned with the height of it. You know, how low is it? How high is it? So right here, this is at a negative 1. So this right here is at a level of -1. This is actually the highest level here is at 5. Now remember, they like to switch out the f of x with the y. So we're going to start with the smallest number, which is -1, and then we're going to put in the 5 here. So now what we want to do is we want to go ahead and put down our inequality signs, because we see if we look at our answer, these are all inequalities here. Now they're not so much using f of x, and the reason why they're not using the f of x here, because the function is actually called g, so it would be g of x in the middle. But still, f of x and g of x are the same. So these are considered to be solid because you don't see any open circles there. So we're going to go ahead and use these inequality signs. Now remember, you gotta make your signs in a way that makes sense. You know that 5 is better than -1, so both signs are turned towards the 5 because of course the 5 side is better. We have the equal to signs because we don't see an open circle there. We see a solid circle right there. So my height there would be -1 and +5. Okay, we have a domain. So domain we want to drive. So domain, we think of the word drive. It's like you're driving a car. So you're going to drive a car, and this is the x-axis. So we want to go from, let's say, left to right. So we start here at -6. So you see it starts here at -6. It's continuously connected, and it goes all the way to 6. So we start at -6 and we finish at 6. So we start at -6, we finish it at 6. We see solid there, so we're going to use the inequality signs with the equal to. And we're talking about the x-axis, because what we're doing is we're driving across, and we're driving right along the x-axis. So it would go from -6 to 6. So the best choice, of course, would be C. These right here deals with individual points. It's not individual points because it's all connected. It would not be this, because that would actually be more of your range, because it's from -3 up to 7. So they're trying to trick you with that. The answer goes from -6 to +6 there.